Welcome to Event Sustainability Live 2023, brought to you by Event Industry News and sponsored by Evolution Dome. My name is Zach Goodman. I'm part of the PR and marketing team at DRPG, and we are bringing you this fabulous stage over the next 2 days, full of wonderful speakers. And the next is, I can't be biased as a host, but you have to give me a break on this one because this one's my boss and CEO of DRPG. So I am going to welcome Dale to stage, who will be breaking the key measuring processes down for you in the most simple yet effective ways that have enabled us to be the first agency to achieve the ISO accreditations. We are the only agency ever to achieve the Queen's Award for Sustainable Development. And most recently, we've secured the Investors in People Platinum status for another time, and B Corp, which is really good news for us. So without further ado, I know if you haven't been to this session before, we've got headphones. I recommend putting them on for optimal audio. You've got a little volume button that you can, if you get crackly feedback, you can turn that down. We also have closed captions to the side. Those are available in different languages if you download the Interprefy app. We also have a QR code to this side where you can scan and submit questions. Other than that, save your questions to the end, and I'll be around with the microphone. Dale, over to you.
Thank you, Zach. Hi, everybody. So we can have the slides. There we go. So yeah, Dale Parmenter, CEO of DRPG. Anybody who doesn't know who we are, we're a full-service agency, around 400 people globally, across the UK, Northern Europe, and into the US. And we work predominantly with corporates, with their comm solutions, event solutions, promotions, internal, external, and also governments as well. We've been on a sustainability journey now for quite some time. As Zach has said, we've gone through all the accreditations, and actually we started before the ISOs with the British Standard, which is clearly defunct now. So yes, we've got the ISOs, Queen's Award, which we were very proud to get last year. Only in the last few weeks, we've been certified as B Corp and an Investor in People at Platinum level. We're also involved in the Net Zero Carbon Events, which was launched at COP26 in Glasgow, and we're also part of AdNet Zero. So our journey, about 17 years. Yes, we've got a lot of experience, but we're still learning. And why do we sponsor a stage like this? Because one of our objectives is to collaborate and share knowledge. And I think sustainability is one of those things where we have to put the competitiveness aside and collaborate as an industry and share knowledge. And I'm great to come to things like this and still keep learning and also share our learnings as well. So on that, I've got 10 tips throughout the presentation that I was sharing with you, and hopefully you can take those away and start to use them. But first of all, what I want to talk about, go really back to basics of, well, what is sustainability? We talk a lot about sustainability, and we talk a lot about the environment. But of course, sustainability is much more than just the environment. It covers everything. And we base our learnings and our objectives around the UN 17 sustainability goals, sustainable goals. And that gives us a great foundation. Then if we start to put that into some sort of context, it's the 3 Ps. And the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. And we have a little stool here, 3-legged stool, and we put sustainable future at the top. Each leg has to be equal. Each leg has to be firm and be there. If one of those legs is shorter, of course, the stool will rock, or if one of those legs doesn't exist, it will fall over. So in equal measures, we look at people, planet, profit. And I'm going to go through all 3, and then there's going to be a big focus on the planet one towards the end. But first of all, profit. Profit sometimes can have a bad name. You look at TV, the businessman and woman are always the baddies, because nobody wants to talk about profit. But of course, if we don't make profit responsibly, and we don't invest, well, we can't invest. And we can't invest in people, and we can't invest in the planet. So simple and efficient processes, financial protection for ourselves, future investment in our people, in our business, in our community, compliance, data protection, customer experience, responsible supply chain, and reputational damage. And I'll just give you an example here of where profit can be absolutely damaged just because we haven't thought about the planet and we haven't thought about people. And this is an example. This wasn't our project, thankfully, but what happened is an agency put on a big festival, worked for a client, a major brand that would sit on all the cups everywhere, printed all over the place. They cleaned the site, put it all into the bags, ready for the waste company to come along. Somewhere in the communication, that waste company didn't turn up. What happened overnight? Animals got in, opened all the bags, it got back to that with the client's brand all over it. Front page of the press, reputational damage for the client, reputational damage for the agency, massive implication on profit. So that's what I'm talking about there. So my first tip is profit isn't a bad thing. Responsible profits are essential to support people and planet. Be open and transparent with your profit and where it goes. That's really, really important. I share all our finances with our team every month. We all get together and I take the whole team through, 400 of them, of where we are and what we're spending the money on, because why wouldn't you? Okay, what about people? People obviously incredibly important there, and it's about the employee experience. We all talk about customer experience, but what about employee experience? That local impact, not just on the employees, but when we rock up to put an event on in a town or village or city, what impact are we having, positive or negative, on the people of that town? So can we integrate with community projects? And I'll talk about that a bit later. Anti-slavery goes without saying. Accessibility, diversity, equality, equity, inclusion, well-being, client and team safety, and having a tangible vision, values and purpose. And for me, what's really important about the people leg is this. All that's very interesting is everyone having a voice in the organization. And if everyone truly was heard, valued and appreciated, what difference would that make to an organization? And those organizations that are high performing embrace this. And then profit and planet fit into place. And we use 3 tools. I'm just going to share with you very, very quickly the tools we use. If you want more information afterwards, please let me know. I'm not going into too much depth. The first one is called the 5 voices. We all got a voice. And we've got a collection of all these voices, but one of these voices will be the strong voice. If we're a guardian, we love process, we love due diligence. If we're a connector, we just do it. We just get on with it. So you can imagine those 2 people getting on really, really well. But if we can understand from the other side of you, that helps us then work together better, collaborate, communicate, and be a high-performing team. The other tool we use is called the energy grid. Now, this really is great for well-being. It may seem really simple, but we all want to be here. We all want to be in the high-performance zone, don't we? I think we all agree with that. But of course, what happens, we slip over to survival, we then go into burnout, and then we have to break. And we can be in any one of these sectors at any one time in the day. So we teach our people to understand what it means to be there, and if they're starting to slip here or here, they have to go down to there. And we teach our managers to do that, our leadership team, but everyone in the organization to say, I just need to go and take a break. Or I may have to have a couple of days off, and that's fine. That helps with the well-being to keep everybody here. And the final one is called Radical Candor. Not sure if anybody's heard of Radical Candor. Kim Scott wrote the book about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's about honesty and openness within the organization. And again, we want to be in the green here. We want to be open and honest across our organization. I'm not a big fan of engagement surveys, but we don't do them anymore. And also, I'm not a big fan of the word radical either, because this is just about open feedback. And this is what we do. We've got an open feedback wheel. It sits with our values. And what we want to talk about here is understanding from the other side of a person. We want to have a safe environment. We want to have passion for the outcome, that we want to all work together. we want to have belief in each other, and we want to have ownership. And once we've got that, we can start to move around the wheel. And this is where it's essential for a high-performance team, around continuous improvement. It's not about negative, it's about being honest, it's eliminating blame cultures, it's being creative and innovative thinking, it's about pioneering spirits, it's about success and sharing recognition, and it's about having those open conversations that lead us to become a high-performing team. So, top tip for people. My top tip for people is, if we can have that open and honest feedback, we will reduce blame, we'll support well-being, we'll promote accessibility and inclusion, we'll increase productivity, improve retention. That continuous improvement culture will help us be a better place to work, and will drive and encourage innovation and creative thinking, support the employee experience, and have that high-performing team. So that's profit, that's people. I know I'm racing through these because there's a lot to get through. But what about planet? Well, the planet one is actually the simplest of the three, I think. Because a lot of it is down to just common sense and keeping it simple. And it is about our raw materials, it's about the power, the travel, the supply chain, all the stuff when you walk around here you talk about. So let's just break some of these down. We've been working a lot with reusable material, with recyclable material, doing away with things like vinyl, with Foamex, and all that stuff. Reusable carpet, big carpet tiles rather than rolls of carpet being used anymore. So from now on, I'm really going to focus around the planet piece and hopefully give you some hints and tips. And the first one really is about small actions. When we started our journey, and I announced that we're going to be really into the accreditations and we're going to really focus on the planet, the team really were shocked and also scared, because I thought, we're trying to save the world. Well, yes, we are trying to save the world, but don't try and do it in big chunks. Take simple actions, and that's what we started to do. Look at very, very simple actions. And that then starts to balance the 3 Ps. And an example of that is here. For some years, we do exhibitions for the food industry. And for many years, we would hire skips in a place like this, £4,000 a time. Everything goes into the skip. And then somebody said, I've heard of a charity called Fair Share. They come along, they take it all, everything. That could be reused or is suitable for human consumption, goes to the homeless. That isn't, what isn't, goes to farms for animal feed, and what's left goes to composting. What a fantastic example of people, planet, and profit. So balancing the 3 Ps is really important. Think of the 3 Ps as a 3-legged stool with each leg being the same length. So the stool is always stable and make informed decisions using the boss. And you think, what is the boss? Well, the boss is the best overall sustainable solution, and that's what we want to get to. We won't get it right, but by using that stool, we can balance the 3, and we'll get it right and make an informed decision. And to do that, you need a system. You need some way of recording this, because one thing I'm getting a little bit more, or a lot frustrated about at the moment, is emotion in sustainability. There's a lot of emotion in a sustainability, and people making snap decisions because they think it's the right thing to do. They've seen it on social media. They've seen it in the press. Rather than much more fact-based analytics, what can we measure, and then make a decision based on the facts, not on the emotions. And we have to put the emotions to one side. So if we look to what is our criteria for positive change, well, we need to be specific. What is that positive impact that we want to make? What is the sustainability hotspot that we're going to focus on? What are we going to engage? How are we going to engage? Who are the interested parties? Is it our supply chain? And what are the opportunities there? What legacy do we want to make on going forward? Is it something we need to change behaviours? And a lot of this is about changing behaviours. What can we measure? Absolutely vital, and this is the vital piece. What is what can we demonstrate? What we can then do that we can be extraordinary? So that's the criteria for positive change. And then we start to look at the system we put in place. We have to clearly have a strategy. We have to have an ambition. We have to implement that, constantly review it, and progress forward and keep changing it. So it starts to look something like this. This is our sustainability management system, where we plan, we do, we check, we act. And around there is operations, of course. We've got monitoring, measurement, and it gives us data. And a lot of this has been put together by Sam Wilson, our consultant from Centiro. She's been in the industry for many, many years, and she's absolutely brilliant at doing this. So in terms of getting a system, some way of measuring whatever we do, don't let emotions drive the action, act on the facts. Find ways of measuring your action, set KPIs, keep the data, and monitor the continuous improvement. And one of the reasons we went for accreditations is discipline, because we know every year they're going to come in and they're going to audit us. So we've got to make sure our systems and processes are in place. And we've got many tools to do that. A new tool that we've just launched with Sam and Centiro is called the Boss app, and it tracks a project. So we put all the information in, and it's not just about carbon, it's everything. Absolutely everything, right from well-being to inclusivity, to accessibility, to waste, to power. And it will tell us as we're going through that we're maybe running a little bit hot there or a little bit cold there, and at the end of it we will get a report that we can give to our clients. So that is actually being launched now, and will hopefully be available under license from January. But if you're on that sustainability journey, the one thing that you need to do is get the team buy-in. You won't really move forward if it's just remote in some part of the organization. A question to you guys, has you got anybody in your organization who's solely responsible for sustainability? Anybody? Hands up, anybody? Wow, not many. You're going to have to start going that way if you're a certain size. Now that person doesn't do everything. Andrew's my person, just sat here. Andrew looks after the systems, the processes, he gathers the data, but it's the team that have to go and do the work. I mean, Andrew does a lot of work, believe me, but it's the team that has to go and implement the work, because everybody has to be responsible for sustainability across the organization. And if you isolate it as just a department over there, you won't get the best from your people. So we have a sustainability team, and they're made up of lots of different people from across the organization. People come into it, they leave, they come back, and it's about ideas, generation, research, and what's the next best thing. We do training days, seminars, workshops, to just get the whole team involved. And that then is all recorded. So this is just a snapshot of one of the management systems that we've got, that everything is recorded, every objective that we set, every KPI, and we want to know how we're doing in that continuous improvement. And when we look at actions and objectives, and this is really, really key to effective sustainability, when we look, we've got our department unoperational, we've got company-wide and community. So when we look at company-wide, these are the big things. As a company, we've made a decision. So we made a decision, no single-use plastic. We did that quite some time ago. Nothing to landfill. And solar panel, renewable energy. So we're completely renewable energy at all our sites. Then we have departments. So every year, we challenge every department to come up with one target, one objective for the year. And that could be really simple. So with the print team, they wanted to save material. And the way they could do that is every time they printed, they pressed the button and automatically the machine took 30 centimeters of material. One of the young guys in there said, well, actually, if we switch the machine to manual, I can roll it back 29 centimeters. So every time we press print, it saves 29 centimeters of material. And I just tick a box. And we count the ticks up. Andrew puts them into the system, and at the end of the year, we've got thousands of ticks that equate to 29 centimeters times whatever it is. So it's that simple, and this is the simplicity that you have to really aim for. And then community. Community is vitally important, and I'll come to the community in a second as a separate section. So then we can measure, and then can we celebrate? We can make it fun. We can have awards of who has done really well, who has done the best across the organization, whether it's people, planet, or profit. So, top tip number 6. Sustainability should not sit in isolation in an organization. It should involve everyone, and everyone should be encouraged to have the ideas and get involved. It will support with collaboration and team engagement, absolutely. Now, one of the hot topics coming up at the moment is supply chain. And the supply chain, clearly, we have a massive supply chain in the events industry. And we have hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers. So I'm just going to give you a few very simple examples here of where the supply chain can go wrong. Because, okay, we've got our key supplier, and they may have a system in place, and they may give us data, but what about their suppliers, and their suppliers, and their suppliers? How far down the line do you want to go? So let's have a look at tomatoes, shall we? So this is where emotion can kick in. Emotionally, I want to go and buy locally, because I can go to a greenhouse locally and 1 mile and buy tomatoes. However, this local greenhouse is heated by oil. If I go to Spain and buy the tomatoes that is heated by the sun, there is a lot less emissions. So actually, it's better to buy from Spain than from the UK. So these are the type of things you have to start looking into. What about potatoes? We grow potatoes in the UK, of course we do. But what about when we've done our research that the potato seed came from Egypt? Why did it need to come to Egypt? English wine becoming a big thing. Brilliant. We've got vineyards just a few miles from where our head office is, and we've been doing that. And you think, this is really good. This is really low emissions. Until we find out, unfortunately, the bottles are made in China. So these are examples of the supply chain and the myths that sometimes happen, and why we have to look at the facts and ask questions. And the same with production. We can spend a fortune with production, and we may not be able to source locally, so we're trucking it in. So how are we going to mitigate that? And giveaways. How many tote bags or pens or drink bottles can we use at any one time? And I bet we've all got loads of them at home. Personally, I just do away with giveaways. I wouldn't have them at all. Because I think most of it ends up in the bin, most of it ends up in the landfill. If you're going to do a giveaway, go to a social enterprise in the local area where we are. What are they making? What have they done? Is it local jam, local beer, whatever it is that they're doing? Can we support a local enterprise? So supply chain. Keep the supply chain as short as possible. Understand the supplier's supply chain and ask for evidence. We want evidence-based. They may make wonderful claims, but it may not always be as it seems. And then the decision tree. And this is where the boss really starts to come into its home, into its own. Sometimes we have to make quite difficult decisions on whether we may want to work for a client. That client may have a bit of a dodgy background. So we have something called the decision tree. It's probably, you can't read it, but you can download the presentation, where it takes us through a series of questions. And we're balancing people, planet, profit, of whether we actually are going to take this job on, or take this supplier on, or what are we going to do with this project. And again, without the facts and without the data, we couldn't do this. But it's really interesting where we sometimes have those difficult conversations with potential clients who have got a bit of a dodgy background, and maybe they've done some bad things. What do we do? Emotionally, we may say no. And we've had one just recently. No, we can't deal with those guys. It's so bad what they've done in the past. But then when you talk to them, if they're genuine about change, absolutely 100% genuine about change, shouldn't we then as an industry be responsible to help them change their comms, change their narrative and change the way they operate? Because if we don't, if they can't find anybody to help them, they'll just carry on as they are. So we have to make some really difficult decisions sometimes, and we also have to make sure they are absolutely 100% genuine. And in that case, what we did is we had it written into the contract that if at any moment we see there's greenwashing, we will walk away, and we have the right to walk away. And so, in the end, we walked away because it was greenwashing. But there we are. I'm not going to say it was. So the decision tree, most decisions will be simple, but some will need to have a due diligence and ensure we're applying the BOSS. And then carbon. Lots and lots of talk about carbon and measurement, and if you go over to the Isla stand over there, brilliant with Trace, the carbon calculator. But I like to have a fairly simple approach to carbon. So back in July, we took all our team to the ACC Liverpool. So clearly there was going to be travelling, and if we look at pretty much where the travelling was, from across a lot of UK and that we had to get people there. So the starting point is let's look at this from a different point of view. Let's assume all 350 delegates were going to drive on their own, in their own car, in an average sort of car. So this was quite easy to calculate. Average mileage was 342 miles. Every journey would be 69 kilograms of carbon. 350 car journeys, that's what we would end up, 24,000 kilograms of carbon. So we set ourselves a target. We want to halve that because that's unrealistic. And this is what we did. We said, okay, we're going to put 34 people can go by train, and actually it's a really low carbon. We're going to put coaches on for 151 passengers, and again, a fairly low carbon for those 150 odd passengers. We had 3 coming in from Germany, so we had no choice. We looked at trains, it just wasn't practical, so they had to fly, unfortunately. And that left us with the car journeys, and where we said no one must travel alone. They must car share. So we had some 2s, 3s, and 4s. And this was the total carbon. So that's where we started. That's our benchmark, and that's the key, is the benchmark, and that's why we ended up 7,000 carbon. But then you're thinking, how do we translate this into money? What did we actually do? Because people say sustainability costs us money. Well, take a look at this. If we did that, 45p a mile is what people can claim. I'm sure everybody does that across organisations. That's the HMRC level. £53,000, that's what it would cost if everybody took their own car to that journey. The train cost £570. The coach cost nearly £4,000. Air cost £729, and the car was £9,500. So £14,000. Look at the savings. So it's not good just for the planet, it's also good for the profit as well. And this is where we're balancing people, planet, profit. So, carbon tracking, top tip 7, set a benchmark, get targets, keep it simple, keep it real, set a challenge, involve the delegates, make it real and demonstrate continuous improvement. Research the travel providers and consider hybrid. You see, I love the linking up hubs across the country so people aren't traveling, or across the globe as well. Offsetting. So offsetting is about supporting this, and it's about emission removal. But for me, what I really want to do here is not do it in the first place, if we can help it. So I think when we're looking at offsetting, I think we have to be very wary about offsetting, because offsetting is absolutely not the get-out-of-jail card. We'll just offset, and offset, and offset, and offset. There are some really dodgy offsetting companies as well that actually are causing more trouble and more problems and more emissions than actually what we're trying to offset. So my top tip with offsetting would be the last, not the first resort. Offset around 8 to 10% of a project and try and keep it at that, but research the offset supplier. Absolutely there. And finally, I just want to talk about community. Passionate about community. Businesses should be in the community. But it gives us an opportunity, one, to support the community, maybe also to support new talent as well. And we're desperate for new talent in our organisation. But also, when we do land in an environment or a town or a village, how can we make a positive difference rather than doing the normal team building? And this is something we did for a customer service team. We did a tea party at an old age pensioners home, and they got so much from it in terms of doing real customer service for some quite high demanding old age pensioners. We took over a school for an HR conference, a low performing school, and we turned that school round in a day and gave them confidence in that day, and they got so much from it. And then there are other activities. One we do support is David Mead's Prosthetic Hands with the Light Bulb charity, where delegates make prosthetic hands, which then end up in a third world country being fitted to a recipient who keeps it for up to 7 years. So there's such an opportunity and such a win-win opportunity there to involve the community and get a real positive outcome from your delegates. So top tip 9 there, business in the community. Absolutely, we should be in the community. It absolutely supports that employee experience, and it's great for brand recognition, and it's a win-win situation. So finally, it's all about the 3 Ps. If we have that as our guideline, we put that center to everything that we do, and we can keep that stool stable, then we will be successful from a sustainability point of view. So finally, this is the top tip 10, balance the 3 Ps, facts over emotions, set targets and measure, get a system in place, involve your team, understand your supply chain, get involved with the community, make it fun, make it simple. And if you want a copy of our latest charter, our BUS charter, ESG charter, please scan the barcode, and it's also, the presentation will be there as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dale. Sorry, I don't want to get in the way of phones. Let me just quickly come up here. Do we have any questions in the room for Dale? I've got time for 1, maybe 2, if they're quick questions. Any at all?
Hi. You said about the carbon offsetting. Are there any organisations that you would recommend?
Andrew? There are loads of them. To be honest, we don't use it. We don't offset. So it's not something, I know that Andrew, you've got any background on offsetting companies?
The one I'm looking at the moment is, I think they're called EcoSet, and they seem quite good. But I'm looking at a different range because it depends. You know, when you're thinking about your offsetting, you can decide how to do that offsetting. So it could be maybe you want to do biodiversity, maybe you want to do carbon capture and storage. So think about your different types of offsetting as well as the different companies. But I think EcoAct is the one I last used. I think that was quite good.
What we've done in the past is actually do our own. So we maybe look in the local community of something we can go and do. We've planted trees. We've helped with environmental or horticultural activities. Our head office is in quite a rural area, so it's quite easy for us to do that. But you can do your own offsetting.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
We'll be back here in 10 minutes to cover association meetings with Guy Bigwood.